Welcome to the Awesemo Odds betting show. I am your host, Jordan Frank. It is a beautiful Friday morning, May 31st. I'm joined, as always, by the man, Ben Raza. How you doing, Ben?
I'm good. Happy Friday. It's actually beautiful in New York, too. Nice spring day or whatever we're calling this season. Got some stuff. Obviously, NBA Finals last night. What did you think? I know we're going to be bouncing around. We got pizza rolls, which is going to take more. But as always, good little sports week.
Yeah, a lot to talk about. And we're going to be joined right off the bat here by Josh Engelman, who took the world by storm a week ago Friday with his pizza roll epic performance. I wanted to get your takeaway since we did break it down last week. We posted a line of 83.5, which you were very confident last week that you were going to surpass that number. You did. It looked pretty easy from our end. Talk to us how it was for you.
It was very easy. I mean, I knew that I would blow that line out of the water. That's just how it was going to be. The first 50 were nothing. That was a casual dinner as far as I'm concerned. Hell,
Okay.
I did it again 2 days later, casually as dinner.
So my first question that comes to mind is, how high do you think you could have went? Did you have another 50 in you?
No. Well, okay, so
That's a good question.
yes and no. I wasn't full by any means. Like, I could have put more food in there. I was disgusted. Like, the repetitive nature of the flavor. Like, I was starting to get mildly nauseous by it, but I didn't feel like overwhelmed with bulk. I mean, it really depends on what the terms are for having to put down more. I certainly wasn't gonna get really aggressive trying to eat more for absolutely no gain whatsoever, which was going on at the current time. But if you were like, if you eat another 50, I'll give you $1,000 for each one. I think that I probably come reasonably close.
Okay.
After that, it's probably over. I
If we
think
put
like
a financial
4 total pounds of food is probably like the cutoff.
Yeah, if we put a financial component into this, if we did run it back, what's a real number that would really make you sweat? Is it 150?
What depends what the financial component is.
I mean, if you just had to set like 125-ish is where you're starting to feel the heat, you think?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think at one, I mean, the 100 was easy. Like, it was full stop. It was easy. It wasn't fun for the last stretch, but it was never, I don't think that I can get this. I mean, I think I did it in like 12 minutes or something stupid. It was really oddly quick. I just started, milking it for a while to let Jake and Chris talk a little bit about the NBA or MLB rather. Yeah, I think around 125 would be. I would really just not be great at that point in time. I felt awful the rest of the night, sluggish. It was just like pizza bites were jammed into like crevices of my brain. Things weren't firing right. Things weren't great the next morning. No digestive issues, if anybody's curious, which I doubt you are.
I did want to know.
No, like it was nothing. I've eaten a lot of pizza bites in my day. Normally they were, in college, they were just getting washed down by like 10 to 15 beers. So that's probably just as bad as eating the additional like 30 to 40 pizza bites.
Honestly.
Yeah. So I don't think that this was so far out of my day-to-day wheelhouse, unfortunately. It should be, but it wasn't.
I think next time we need to get you out of your comfort zone a little bit. We just have to change up the food choice. Not something you're just hitting every week, it sounds like.
Yeah, you can give me like, I don't know, 3 pieces of celery and I'll sit here for an hour and a half and barely be able to get through it.
There you go. That would be compelling. How about some celery juice?
I mean, for food for me, there is no middle ground. I either think that I can eat an overwhelming amount of it or basically none of it at all. Like McDonald's chicken nuggets, I think, could be a really fun one that's sort of comparable.
Oof.
Oh, man.
I hit the $20 pretty regularly. Like, it's nothing. I think I could bang out. I don't know. I'd have to check the volume of food. Probably like 60 or so. They're a little bit heavier than a pizza bite.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say 100, and I was going to derail the show.
I did 3. Not that they're like really thick subs or anything. I'm not a big like veggie guy, so doesn't end up being like a good squeeze. But Subway was running like a 3 for $12 deal when I was in high school, and I ate 3 full 12-inch subs.
Yeah, that'll get you.
That's an impressive amount of bread right there.
Yeah, that wasn't fun at all. That third meatball sub was not should not have been the third one. Let's just put it that way.
Things you learn. What can you live and you learn?
Yeah, it's all about making mistakes.
If you kept down that path, you could have been the future Jared if you just put on a ton of weight and then go the Subway diet.
I don't want to do all the things that.
Yeah, let's say future Jared comes with
just some baggage at the back end of it.
Yeesh.
Yeah, I don't. There are so many jokes right now.
Yeah.
I don't know how EV Analytics likes some of the things that I was about to say, but I sat on it. Thank God I'm producing, because they probably would have came out once I saw the logo. If this was just an Awesemo.com sponsored joint, probably would have had a couple good Jared jokes there. Here's the Jared joke that I have that is not really a joke. I heard murmurings that that was a thing before it happened.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
You with the inside
really
info.
Really weird. Yeah. That was apparently like word on the street for him while he was in college.
So
and I knew that before it ever came out. I had heard that information, which is real weird.
Yeah, that is weird.
What kind of circles are you traveling in?
Not the right ones, I guess.
Clearly.
Yeah.
So what's next?
I wish I never knew it. That's.
What's on the horizon, Josh? What can we do next? I think a lot of people really enjoy these fun props and certainly taking a side on it. What can we do next?
I don't know.
No pressure.
I mean, I'm up for anything. I'm always down to do dumb stuff for other people's enjoyment.
My whole life is centered around that, pretty much.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll think up some things, maybe some food, maybe if we can expand it at like an athletic or a logic, do something and then complete a different task. That's always fun.
If you can get me onto hot ones or something, I'd be happy to eat 10 hot chicken wings.
Oh boy.
Spice doesn't bother you?
Oh, it bothers me a lot. But I have a bunch of the hot sauces that they use at the end of it all in my kitchen. And not to say that I can do it. It's debilitating when you eat it.
It's not
but
good.
I would want to do something like that.
You think you can do
just temporary?
Yeah, I know. I've had to do certain things. This restaurant, Lemongrass at the Aria. If you get a 10 on the 10 out of 10 spice scale, it's and I don't mind spice, but this is just another level. I mean, well beyond anything I can handle, and I think maybe anybody can handle.
It's so funny that we're talking about this right now. I've got a friend going to Vegas this weekend. Last time that I was there, my wife and I got relatively spicy food at the Aria.
Was it Lemongrass?
I didn't get anything to that level. We stuck to the middle of the pack, which was also still pretty hot.
That's funny.
But yeah, she was there a couple days earlier and was like, "Hey, we had this really great food." And I got there and I was like, "Yeah, let's just eat there again today." So yeah, it's the only thing that I've ever eaten in Vegas that wasn't, I don't know, Krispy Kreme donuts off the line in Circus Casino. I love Vegas.
Yeah,
that's where that's where my dad got us rooms when I went directly after college. Circus. Whatever, Dad. It's just a place to lay my head down. I'm just gonna be bombed.
Yeah.
Which was true. I was there when Manny got popped for steroids.
Oh wow.
Yeah, that's how I remember that stuff. I was in the sports book when Manny got popped for steroids.
That's a pretty good moment there. I was there for a different Manny, but Manny versus Mayweather, which was one of the most epic weekends in maybe Vegas history.
I was there for Mayweather versus McGregor, actually. So.
I thought you were going to give a Manny Laura story there. We were all going to have a Manny.
And
we all got a Manny.
I bumped into Manny Laura that weekend in Vegas. Little known fact. Very odd. It all connects.
Full circle.
It does all connect. It's good stuff.
There we go.
Good stuff.
Nice, Josh. Well done. We're all very proud of you. I'm sure your family is also equally as proud. Nice work.
Pretty much just all ashamed of me for most of the decisions I've made in life from start to finish.
Understandable.
Yeah, I don't blame them one bit. Sullying the great Engelman name.
That's right.
Chad just said before you go, you should be the host of the New Man vs. Food, Josh.
Yeah, I wouldn't be that good at it because I don't like a lot of food. I'm good in the things that I want to eat, but most of those challenges are going to have tomatoes on the salsa or something, and it's just I'm good. I'm out. If you gave me a year to eat a tomato. I might not be able to get through it without just like I don't think that I could even take the bite.
I don't
You
like
can do it.
either.
I really don't, like, because I know how, like, it's like choking me up to think about biting a tomato right now.
Anxiety.
I'd have a
I
better
have the
chance of eating
same-
an onion raw.
I was literally just going to say I have the same reaction to onion because I, at one point in my life, had to eat a full onion raw, like an apple.
What was college
if-
like for you?
Exactly, fraternity life, and I've been scarred ever since. And I cannot eat an onion, even just a cut piece of onion. I can't eat it.
Oh God, that's a really not fun thing to have to do. That
Yeah,
really
that's
has no bear. Like, it's not unhealthy. Like, it's not going to harm you, but no one wants to do that. Although there's probably at least one guy in the fraternity that's just like, oh, I'll do it,
Yeah, I
and
do
then
that
just
all the
works his
time.
way through it like it is an apple.
Yeah,
Those are the
there's
guys you
always
gotta be
one.
wary of.
That's for sure. Yeah, we had one who stepped it up and ate most of it.
Oh, it was like a group effort on the onion.
It was a
wasn't
group, yeah, there's-
solitary onion.
There were several onions involved.
I would have asked if I could eat like 4 shallots instead.
Just pop them.
Just get a little bit better flavoring.
Yeah, you can pop those easy.
That's also super gross. I can't
Indeed.
imagine doing that.
It was pretty bad.
Oh,
Pretty disgusting. I don't think I could eat. I mean, you could give me 10 years. I'm not going to eat one.
yeah. So my aversion to tomatoes happened because I fell on a rotten one in the summer when I was a kid, and it stank really bad. And now I've never been able to recover
You're
from
scarred.
it. Yeah.
Do you like last thing, and then you can do whatever you need to do. I'm sure you're busy. Do
I'll
you
be
like
around.
tomato like thing? Chat's wondering because I don't like whole tomatoes, but I love pizza. I don't mind salsa. Tomato-esque products.
I love them. I love every tomato product. I
Ketchup.
make tomato soup with a grilled cheese
Yeah.
really regularly.
Oh,
as
it's the
lunch.
best.
Ketchup, I'm all in. For a while, oh God, I'm such a weird person. For the longest time, I was like not an advocate of ketchup unless it came out of the pump at Wendy's.
Yeah, that's aggressive.
So random.
I don't know why, but I did not use ketchup in most scenarios unless it was the ketchup that came out of the pump at Wendy's, which is clearly just the same ketchup as every other ketchup product.
That's
No,
a safe.
every tomato product I'm in for except for its original form.
Yep, agree.
All right. Well, we'll set up that tomato challenge in the next few weeks for you.
I wouldn't even try. You could give me
All right, well-
100 cherry. Like if I had to eat 100 cherry tomatoes instead of 100 pizza bites, I wouldn't get to 2, and I would get sick on the screen.
That's what the people like to see.
Got to give the people what they want.
It's all
That's
about
right.
the views.
That's right. All right, Josh. Well, thanks for jumping on. We'll definitely brainstorm a little bit, see what we can think of to get you back in your eating form.
Yeah, that's great. I'm already unhealthy enough. Maybe I should start exercising so that I can make this a little bit more feasible because, I still haven't been feeling all that great since the pizza bites. 150 in 48 hours is pretty stupid.
Yeesh.
But Ryan Stubbs in chat, by the way, is there a such thing as salsa sans tomato? Yeah, like all of the green salsas.
Yeah.
Those don't have green tomatoes.
No, it's usually like tomatillo potentially
Yeah,
and some sort of
tomatillo.
green peppers.
What's going on? Okay.
I mean, they could have green tomatoes, I guess. I don't know why tomatoes are certain colors, but that's not this show.
That's another topic.
Should be.
It is. You guys have fun.
All right. Take care, Josh.
All right,
Later,
Josh.
gents.
All right. So I don't know how we transition from there, but let's talk NBA Finals. I do want to reference our sponsor, which Josh mentioned briefly, EV Analytics. I'm sure they're very proud of that last segment that we put together. But going forward, we're going to dig into the NBA Finals, French Open. We'll talk a little golf. We'll certainly hit on all the sports of the last week. So just wanted to give a shout out to our sponsor. If you're looking for advanced betting models, real-time odds, betting stats, check out the link. It's evanalytics.com. Stay tuned. Also, we're going to have some exciting announcements in the future as we work more with them and get them involved in what we produce. Ben, so turning to last night, did you have a position going into the game? What were your thoughts? We talked a little bit off air on what we thought, and I think we both liked Toronto, if not in game one, to win one of the 2 games at home. What did you think going in? Did you have any positions?
So I had jumped on Toronto in the last series against the Bucks, and I took a little in the future for them to win it all. I bought out of most of it, so I'm in a basic free roll. I have a small position on each. And yeah, I think you like Toronto specifically more than I did last night, which was very good. My thoughts were one way or another, the Warriors are probably going to come home 1-1. And I think pretty much anyone that likes the Raptors in the series, I don't know how you could say that they have to go into game 5 minimum 2-2. There's just no way they're going to win, 3 straight to close this out. So it feels like game 2 is almost a must win again for them. But man, obviously that crowd fueled them. Siakam was just unbelievable. I'm sure you watched the game. What did you think? Do you think they can sustain it, or was it just them coming in a little hotter and the Warriors being sluggish?
I think it was kind of the perfect storm. I mean, they had, like you mentioned, the Siakam has such an incredible performance, but so did Gasol, and so did Van Fleet again, shooting just lights out. I think it was just kind of this perfect storm where the Warriors, they were a little sluggish. They didn't play that well. Their transition defense was pretty poor. But, Toronto capitalized on a lot of mistakes that Golden State was making. And I just kind of felt the line was a little too short, but I also felt that, look, it was about 80% of the public was on Golden State. And anytime you have that kind of disparity, I'm automatically going to start looking at the other side as a starting point for me. And when I saw that, I've liked Toronto for a little bit. We've talked about it, and Kawhi didn't even have that great of a game. That's kind of the crazy thing. So going forward, I agree with you. I think game 2 is a must win. The news came out this morning that Durant is going to come back like mid-series, whatever that means. Is that game 3? Is that game 4? Is that game 5? I think with him back, Golden State is going to win the series, no question. What do you think about kind of that looming KD return?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I have no insight into how healthy he is. I assume if they are down 2-0, that if he can give them anything in game 3, we will see him. Maybe, if they split, maybe they say, you know what, we'll bring him to game 4. I don't know. I don't know if a couple extra days makes a huge difference for this, if it's pain management, if it's, I obviously am not familiar with that, but yeah, putting him back, it's going to be a boost, if nothing else. And again, that's why the Raptors, they need to take advantage now. They're clearly playing very well. They're at home. They have a whole country behind them, as everyone keeps saying.
Yeah,
got to put the heat on the Warriors, because if they just go back to Oracle, obviously all the pressure is going to be on the Raptors to, steal and level it to get home court back.
The game line for game 2 is almost identical to where it closed yesterday. I think it closed at the Raptors were a 1-point favorite. It was bouncing around between Pick'em. I think Golden State was favored for maybe a short period of time, but Toronto was mostly favored going into last night slightly. And as of right now, it's the same for game 2.
Mm-hmm.
The money line. So right now it's a 1.5-point spread. The money line for Golden State is plus 106. You're not getting obviously a ton of value there, but that's probably where I'm going to be, because I agree with you that Golden State is going to get. We thought they were going to get one of these 2 games from the get-go, and look, it's a must-win for Toronto. But on the counter to that is Golden State really needs to get a win tomorrow or Sunday night.
Obviously, absolutely, and it's a game. The Warriors obviously have all experience. I probably will take a position beforehand on the Warriors. But if they go down early, I'm certainly apt to buy more on them, because we've seen time and time again. I know it was different. They were in control of those series, but there's no panic. They were down double digits to Portland a couple games. They battled back. They can erase, they're down 10-12, couple of possessions, and then you look and it's, the Raptors taking a timeout up 4. It can change that fast.
Yeah, and I thought that might have happened last night at a few different times when, they made a little bit of run to get back into it in the third quarter, just like they kept doing against Portland. Like you said, there was double-digit deficits in I think 3 out of those 4 games against Portland. And Toronto just kind of held them off. They got some big shots. Obviously, Siakam played an incredible game, and I don't think that can be duplicated. But he had an incredible game. Gasol was hitting some big shots. So the series price hasn't really changed either, which is of course, indicative that Golden State is the favorites. Golden State is still minus 162 to win the series. The Raptors, even with the game one win, they're plus 138 where I'm looking. Do you see any value in betting the series at this point, or are you just holding off and see kind of how game two looks?
I think that, if you're a person that thinks that this is a fine time to jump on the Warriors, you're getting a little discount, but all in all, I think a lot of the value both ways that we're at different points in the series. If you want to be aggressive and you say, you know what, if they get Durant back, I don't care that they're down possibly 2-0. You could wait. I mean, you'll obviously get plus money if the Warriors go down 2-0. I don't think there's any doubt about that. But that's they go down 2-0. You got to win 4 out of 5, and even for them, that's going to be a tall task, obviously. So it's a key pivotal game, no doubt about it.
I actually wonder how plus you would get. I would think it's probably not going to be that much, but hard to say. What do you think?
I mean, with Durant, it's such a wild card, and they're obviously the Warriors. I was thinking, nothing extreme, maybe like plus 150. That's the number that came to mind.
Yeah.
That may be a little long. That may be a little short. Honestly, I that's a pure guess. It's hard not. They have to be plus. I mean,
yeah.
It also depends the manner. If they get blown out, obviously you're going to see that number rise. If they lose in overtime or something, it'll be a little shorter.
Have you looked at all at finals MVP odds and kind of how those have moved? They haven't really moved much. I mean, Steph is still the prohibitive favorite and the only one who's a minus. He's minus 110 basically to be the MVP. Siakam's odds came tumbling down. Not a surprise there, but I wouldn't be betting that as the finals MVP.
So my one thing on that, and I'm actually glad you brought this up because I wanted to mention it. Do you think that there is any chance that the Warriors win the series and Curry isn't the MVP? Because if you think the answer is no, then instead of taking the Warriors series price, you should just be betting Curry MVP at minus 110.
I feel I do this often with the Super Bowl where you get a better price on Tom Brady to be the MVP versus the Patriots money line or something like that. I have a hard time outside of them being down 0-2, KD coming back and KD just putting them on his back for 4 games. Mm-hmm. I have a hard time seeing anyone else.
When you factor in that's certainly the only out that I see.
Yeah.
We've seen more talk about, Steph never got one during this run. There is something to that. Obviously the Iguodala one, it could have been him.
Yeah.
And I just think that if the Warriors win, barring, like you said, them being down 0-2 and KD literally just taking the series, you're going to see Steph Curry win the MVP. So you're getting that discount. And since it's a series, I think there's lower variance. Obviously in the NFL, I agree with you, but it's one game, a pick six, something crazy can change the entire dynamic. This is a series. I think Curry is basically a lock to win the MVP if the Warriors win it. So you can bet the series, kind of like that, and embrace a little risk.
I like that approach. The one thing that I've heard that I think is more just conspiracy theory and would require, I think, some pretty epic games would be Klay. And in game one, he had a good game, but you would need 2 or 3, maybe even 4, kind of just 8 threes, 9 threes, just kind of an epic Klay performance. He's got to guard Kawhi. He needs to do a lot. And I think a lot of that comes from, I don't know if you're following the all NBA teams and how that
he's very bitter.
Affected Klay's future and how much he can earn. He's no longer eligible for the Supermax. And for better or for worse, that's all determined by sports writers and their voting. And the MVP is the same way. And maybe there's this kind of retribution, like we really kind of screwed Klay over. Arguably, I don't know if he should have been on the third team, that you could argue pro and con, easily. But it's kind of crazy, number one, that they have that much power to control how much money he makes. And then number two, that they also vote for the MVP in the finals. But he would need, like I said, a pretty epic performance and really outshine Steph to get that, in my opinion.
That's the thing. It's one of these situations where if it's even close, the tie goes to it's Klay would have to thoroughly outplay him consistently. And even then, sometimes they just, if it's lifetime achievement style, it's not out of bounds, but that's a big ask. Obviously, Klay, low key. I mean, we could talk, this is a separate show, but I think he's, at pivotal moments in this run. I mean, everyone forgets the Oklahoma City game, Clay won that game. Like, that was the most unbelievable performance of all of them.
Game 6, absolutely, in
like,
OKC.
They were done.
Yeah.
And when he gets going, I think it's hotter than anyone, honestly.
I do too. Part of me has always wanted to see what he could do on his own. It's not, I don't know if it's his style or his mentality to be that alpha dog, but
yeah,
I would love to see him put up 20 shots a game and just see what happens.
Same. No, he is a mystery because we just don't know, obviously, because he's always been playing with these guys. So we'll see as the game gets closer. We learn more each game. There's still some positions to be had, but that's really where I'm at on the whole with the series at this point.
Yeah, same here. If Golden State does go down double digits or something in game 2, I'm going to be jumping on a live number at some point in that game.
Yeah, I think that's really the way to go about it.
Yeah, agreed. So game 2, Sunday, obviously the KD news kind of just holds over, and we'll see. He's not going to play game 2, but there's a chance he may be back at some point when they go to Oakland to play games 3 and 4. From there, do you want to transition into tennis? You want to talk golf? How are you feeling?
Yeah, no, we'll talk a little tennis, even though painful. Yeah, French Open obviously has been awesome. I've caught a lot more than I thought I would. I think we both talked about it's not really a type of tournament where you're going to see massive upsets. Some guys got knocked off, but the dust, Nadal, Joker, Federer, most of the big names are still hanging in. What have you observed so far? I'm sure you've been watching.
Yeah, I've been watching a fair amount, and if you want to talk the men's side first, it's basically gone as most have expected it with all the top players getting through. If anything, the only surprising thing is just how easy it's been so far. And I think on clay, you kind of see that more often where the better players on clay just have a bigger advantage than they would otherwise. So you've seen Djokovic, Rafa, even Federer have been cruising. Tsitsipas has been cruising. Team has had a little hiccup here and there, and he's the guy we talked about last week. And I know a lot of people are really bullish on him. And his odds, last I looked, he was about 10-1 to win the French Open, and when the tournament went off, he was 4-1. So not going in the right direction for him. And it could be a few things. I mean, that could definitely be just how great Rafa and Djokovic look as the prohibitive favorites. Mm-hmm. It's also that he's had a little bit of a hiccup here and there. He's lost a couple sets. But he's a guy who, look, he has a chance. There's not many on the men's side who I would give a chance to win this to. One name that I do want to mention, we have a couple tennis writers, and we have a ton of tennis content on our site now.
We do.
If you guys are interested at all in DFS tennis and also betting tennis, we've really started to develop some really great projections, some day-to-day breakdowns. And one of our writers pointed out to me that Stan is still about 40-1 to win the tournament, which is just way too much value for somebody as good as Stan. And the thing with Stan, he's always been probably the 4th or 5th best player in the world. He's had injuries, but when he's healthy, he's up there with the big 3, and he's the only other person to win at the French Open outside of those 3, basically since this run has started. So that kind of value on him, look, it's a long shot, but it's not a 40-1 long shot. I just think there's too much value there.
Interesting. I was looking at him. He gets Dimitrov later, right after the show.
Yeah.
Who took down Cilic. That was a wild match, one of the best I've seen so far. And yeah, I mean, I think that's really, obviously the other guy, Zverev, also struggled a bit. He's still alive, but hasn't cruised like them. I will say for me, and obviously we have some really sharp people that I lean on them. I do think TM in particular, I like, one of the things that was a turn, I just thought his odds were brutal at the beginning. He is going the wrong way, but at the same time, the value is opening up. I don't mind. I'm more likely to embrace a position on him now, even seeing him not look invincible, rather than at 4. It just seemed way too short at the beginning of the tournament.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I'm looking now. He's still 10-1, and yeah, it's going the wrong direction. But that's not a conclusion. Like we just don't know at this point, and getting that extra value, that's a reason to wait. You don't have to jump on these futures before the tournament. They're still going to be around 3-4 rounds into the tournament. And this just shows you right here, you're getting a much better price where, Federer is still 23-1. There's a ton of players who are way higher than Thiem. So him at 10-1, is crazy value. I mean, it really is, especially if he opens at 4-1. It just shows you just kind of how the short term, variance can really affect the odds.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So we'll see. I mean, like you said, it'll start to get these guys. I would assume we get tested a little. They've just been on cruise control, but at the same time, Nadal is. I mean, he's still mine. It's ridiculous how it's gonna be hard to beat him. That's for sure. Your boy.
Yeah, he is definitely my boy. Yeah, he looks beyond unbeatable, but Djokovic as well, as much as I'm not the biggest fan. I mean, he's just so incredible and is playing at such an epic level. So he plays today as well. Actually, he might be on right now. Oh, no, he's tomorrow. I'm sorry.
Yeah, he's tomorrow really early against Caruso. Tsitsipas is the other guy who I think he's getting underway right now.
The hard part for me is just the time difference and being on the West Coast. A lot of these matches.
Oh, that's brutal. That's right.
3 a.m. to 5 a.m. my time. I'm up early, but not that early.
No. Yeah, see, for me, it's like I got up this morning, 6:30, flipped it on, and, matches were just getting underway. So I've been able to catch a lot, and it's been great.
Yeah, that's nice. I'm able to watch the matches that start now, but I definitely miss, probably about half of them, at least in the first few rounds. On the women's side, there was one name that I wanted to mention because I saw just kind of what her odds look like now. And it's not somebody that a lot of people are familiar with, but I'm probably going to butcher her name, but it's Marketa Vondrousova.
Okay.
She is 18-1 to win the tournament, which has come way down. So this is the reverse of Thiem. She, I believe, opened the tournament around 100-1. And I took a little bit on her, not at 100, but at a big number. So it's hard to recommend, 18-1 considering what she's started at. But she is an incredible clay court player, and her quarter has really opened up. And part of that is because there's another really great clay court player in her quarter, Martic, who just beat Pliskova today in straight sets really easily. And Vondrousova also won pretty easily today. So she's already advanced. That quarter is definitely up for the taking. She's just one of the best clay court players that most people don't know about. And the women's side is always a little bit more open than the men's side. So 18-1 in her quarter, I think is still pretty good value. It's not what it was, but it's still pretty impressive.
That's good to know. I have not caught as much of the women's. I just, for whatever reason, I just haven't seen it. But you are right in the sense that we've seen, some big names have already got knocked out, whether it's injury or just losing. And it is a little more where it's not like, I don't think there's any possible way that we don't see one of the big names from the men. With the women, it could be you get a couple people playing really well or a specialist and it can open up. So probably some good value. I'm going to look into that right after the show. There we go.
Yeah, that would be my recommendation.
Like it.
Take a little slice there. So one thing I think would be a fun segment that I'm going to hit you up with is kind of what has Ben betting on this week. It seems like a good place to throw that in. Is there any kind of exotic wager, any like ping pong tournaments going on?
So the one thing that I've been taking advantage of, I guess, I don't know if you could say that, it's been working well, is the FIFA Under-20 World Cup. They're in the group stages, and this is the kind of thing I think you need. It's a fine line between being super, super fishy and being smart and picking your spots. There are some teams, just like in the regular World Cup, that just have absolutely no chance. So Tahiti made it, which is just outrageous. And they drew a group, with Poland, with Colombia, and somebody else. And it's just, obviously, you're either laying massive juice or you're laying a lot of goals. But there's a lot of value in picking spots there. So, perfect example, Poland played horrible in their first game. They're hosting the tournament. They got Tahiti in the next game. the way it works, with goal differential, you really need to lay it on, and they did. 5-0. So it's those little spots here and there in the soccer, and the Women's World Cup is coming up. I definitely am going to dig into that and try to pick a few teams in the group that, whether they start slow or need a big win, you can get some nice advantage spots there.
That is one thing that I was looking at, and we should bring it up and talk about it a little bit in the next few weeks, is the Women's World Cup. And there's so much action, game to game, and betting groups and betting, outrights. That's a huge market. I mean, it dwarfs, I think, basically everything here outside of football, American football, as far as European soccer. I mean, that is something I want to talk about over the next few weeks.
Definitely. There's that Euro Cup qualifiers are going on in early June, which, again, it's that same concept. There's just some teams in Europe that really are, dicey at best. So you can get some spots where the other team needs a big win to level their goal differential. And I think that, a lot of they can almost name their score against some of these teams.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure. And I think our boy Josh Engelman is a big fan, or maybe just EPL. So maybe we'll have to draw on him.
Yeah,
he's following the Women's World Cup.
That's what I like to hear. We'll have to rope him in for some segments, but so that's what I've been looking at in addition to this. Obviously, we've got the Memorial going on as we speak right now. It's underway. Some guys haven't teed off, but you can always look for positions. I like to target some guys who maybe haven't teed off just yet. You got JT sitting there around 30-1, looked a little rusty, but the scores are out there from what I've seen. It's wet, it's soft.
It looks like
going to make a big move today. There's no doubt about that.
It looks like there's some really low scorers out there today, and I did want to talk about the Memorial. Is Spieth the favorite? I mean, it looks like he's the betting favorite right now. I know he had some crazy chip-ins, like some long putts that actually dropped yesterday. Is it his time to actually get on the winner's circle?
I mean, I seriously doubt it, to be honest. Certainly maybe it is, but at the numbers that I see, 5-6-1, I have no interest. Because the one thing, even at the beginning of the year, we've all talked about Spieth's struggles. It's not his first round struggles. He started fast in a lot of tournaments this year, and gets the weekend and slows. So, it's not like he has some massive lead. He played very well yesterday, no doubt about it. But, if he shoots an even round today, he's going to be in the middle of the pack with everybody else, and those odds will plummet. So I'm more apt to take a couple chasers and think that maybe they go low and get themselves in nice position.
Yeah, I like Relo a lot, but like you said, he's already through, I think, 14 or 15 today. So I know you said you like to target guys who haven't potentially teed off yet today, but he's one who's really done well in round two, put up a really low score.
Yeah, he's a guy that he's one of my favorite golfers. Really heavy on him in DraftKings. I got the Argentinian colors on today, supporting my man.
Nice.
So we'll see. He's someone, again, I think if you think the win maybe picks up a bit, which I don't think it's going to be brutally different in terms of a split, but there's nothing wrong with banking around. You have if you bet on Grillo, you're not going to have much of a sweat till the weekend. He's done what he needed to do. He's going to be in position. It's just obviously a ton of the value is sapped because he went really low today.
Yeah. Is there anybody else that you're bullish on or like their odds right now?
Just taking a quick look. Honestly, God, I can't believe I'm about to say this. Russell Knox, he's mid-30s. Not a long hitter. Played very well yesterday. Hasn't teed off, not on people's minds, but he's someone I think that really benefits from it. Even though it makes the course play longer, he can control those long irons. He's used to he's a short hitter, so this isn't any different from him. It's not overly long. Keep it out of the stick stuff. And he seems to have a hot putter. Had one last week, and those things are very fluky, but it's not a bad thing. So I'm looking at him maybe to get in the mix. If you want a guy who's a little, he's not a top end type of name.
That's one that I hadn't looked at. So he hasn't teed off yet. So he's shot 4 under yesterday.
Yep. And, the game is he's the other thing, and I've talked about this a lot. Russell Knox is a winner. He's played in Europe. He's won in Europe. He's got plenty of experience here too, but it's not like one of these guys where it's just they've been grinding the PGA Tour and they haven't been in a final pairing in 8 years. I like guys who, even if it's against lesser competition, they've had Sunday pressure. And it's not frequently, but Russell Knox certainly is a winner. And I think his game is rounding into form at the right time.
Interesting. I see him where I'm looking at 41-1 right now to win the tournament. So that's pretty good value right there.
I got him high 30s on my screen. So there, as we say every week, that's why you want to line shop, steal a couple extra points. It makes all the difference in the long run.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the best point to take away. Is just you can find a lot of value just by line shopping. There's no question. Have you been following Stanley Cup?
So I have a bit. My big takeaway was that the Blues thoroughly wore them down, more physical in game 2. And overtime, I mean, it was short-lived, but it was a domination in overtime. So obviously, I think the Bruins, for most people, they need more out of their top line. Marchand was awful. I watched game 2, from start to finish, and he just gave them absolutely nothing. Going to St. Louis now, same thing, though. It's hockey home ice. It's nice, but it's not the end-all, be-all. I'm rooting for the Blues. I just have a feeling it's going to be a long series, so probably go back to Boston too.
I think so too. So it looks like the Bruins aren't just going to win every game since they've been on this crazy winning streak.
It was I thought it was super impressive. Blues down 2-0 and battled, no panic, and really out physicaled them. Honestly, if you watch that game, not that I'm certainly no hockey expert, but you could just see that the Bruins were a little worn down. They were down a defenseman too. He's in the concussion protocol now, I believe. So we'll see what that does. And they, Tarasenko, impressive. The Blues, I thought, were just clearly the better team in game 2, and we'll see if they can carry that over.
Yeah, I'm rooting for the Blues too. I don't have a position on the series. I'll be watching game to game, but the series price right now is still Boston favorite, -122. So a pretty short favorite going back to St. Louis for game 3.
And I think that's kind of where it should be, to be honest. Nothing really stood out. It's two good teams, and adjustments will make all the difference. So I'll continue to watch, and we'll see what happens. It's going to be a great atmosphere for game 3.
Yeah, it'll be exciting to watch. That will be a cool atmosphere, kind of like how Toronto was last night for the NBA. Yeah, it's going to be madness there. Anything else on your radar before we get into this final segment that we've talked about, you and I?
No, not really. I'm trying to think. Yeah, I think that's, we're going to start ever so slight, once summer gets in, start taking, I'm holding off on NFL and college football. We'll get there.
Yeah.
I did peek at win totals yesterday, but not yet. And baseball still in the dog days. I don't really have much to report on my end.
Yeah, I think once we get through the NHL and NBA season, then we'll really be in the dog days, and we'll get into some baseball. We really haven't talked much about it.
Mm-hmm.
I did actually look a little bit at going to NFL division odds. Those have come out, and there's some interesting value there. Something I want to.
And you will take the Patriots and print your money.
Exactly.
Every year, it's just like, well, maybe this is the year, and it's just like, well, their win totals a couple games higher every year than everyone else.
Yeah. It's just amazing that everybody has anointed the Browns as the best team, maybe the second best team in the AFC. I'm exaggerating slightly, but they're the favorite to win that division, and I don't want to get too far down this rabbit hole, but there's some value in fading them just to win the division. I mean, that alone, there was some good value.
No doubt. I'm all zigzagged on the Browns. I was really high on the Browns when they were in their awful stretch, and now I'm not a believer. That's a teaser for like 2 months down the road. We'll save that conversation, but I agree.
Yeah, that's a long play. We're going to get back to that one in a few months. So
sure. It's a perfect segue. So the last thing we wanted to do, we're going to start having some fun at the end of the show, and we want chat. We definitely want to hear from you if you want to chime in. We're going to start doing some lists and some debates. So a top 5 or our favorites. So I want to hear about young quarterbacks is going to be a list at some point, because I can throw my Baker shade. But what do we have today? Go ahead and explain what we want to do here.
So I thought today would be a fun one, obviously with the finals kicking off yesterday and all the talk about the Warriors and their dynasty and how great they are, and they are, kind of dissect the best teams in NBA history. We didn't really talk about any parameters or rules or so. I guess I'm kind of curious as to how you took that question because I left it very broad. Did you put
Yeah.
any kind of qualifier or anything?
Not really. I mean, I kept it pretty. This is more your area than mine. You know, I thought about the best teams I've seen, and then I went and there's some famous teams that were, you know, before my time. I kind of looked through, thought about honestly the qualifier for me when it was close was I thought about the players themselves. So some of these lineups where it's just like, you know, I'll get right to it. One of my teams is 85-86 Celtics. It's like Bird, Ainge, Parrish, McKay. Like what a lineup. In addition to just being a phenomenal team in terms of results.
Yeah, I think that's kind of my tiebreaker. You know, the eras, of course, makes it difficult. Like you can look at those Celtics teams that won 9 in a row with Russell and Havlicek, and like those are incredible, epic teams. Like, would they match up well today? You know, I don't think so.
Obviously, no. I mean, that's another rabbit hole where, you know,
it's hard.
It's a product of your time. What can you? It's hard to imagine the Warriors. You know, they employ smarter strategies because we have more information and we're all smarter. That's just what it is.
Yeah, there's no question. Just that alone, I mean, the advancements in, you know, player fitness, health, well, all of that is a big part of it. It's just a different game than it was, honestly, even 20 years ago, which, spoiler alert, some of my teams will be from 20 years ago.
Yeah,
if you can guess who they might be. Do you want to start with your number 5? I don't know. Did you do like 5 through 1?
I did. So, and again, this is I want if it's real bad, Josh said he will flag me down. So my number 5 team was that Celtics team with Bird, Ainge, Parrish, and McHale.
Okay, they are on my list as well. I guess I should say that.
Okay, a little higher.
A little bit higher, a few spots. I have them at 3, so I might as well just say. And that's part of it too. Like you have this whole era of Celtics teams, but that one in particular, I think people point to as the best team.
Mm-hmm.
They had Walton on the bench at that point. They obviously had Bird, McHale, Parrish. They had Danny Ainge, DJ. Like they were a loaded team.
Super team.
I pulled up some stats for each of the teams that I had.
Oh, look at that. See, you're a better man than me.
I did a moderate amount of preparation. I hate to set the bar too high here with that.
Well, it was I caught a brutal tennis withdrawal this morning. I didn't have time to prep. I was too busy wallowing in my sorrows.
PCB. I don't blame you.
Sad.
So like I was looking at point differential because people have done these rankings and they try to find some sort of stat that can, you know, cross eras and kind of be representative as a whole. Point differential. Look, I don't think it's the best statistic, but it's something. That Celtics team had a 9.4 point differential. They won 67 games. They went 15-3 in the playoffs. A lot of people talk about kind of how playoff record might be indicative, just how dominant they were in that one season, at least kind of as a snapshot.
Mm-hmm.
So that's all I really have for that Celtics team. My number 5 is the 90-91 Bulls. Let's see if Josh chimes in real quick. No, nothing yet. That team, and the reason I put it, look, there's so many teams that I could put in like this 10-5 range. So I picked that team just because of the route that they had to go through to win the title. So this is the first Jordan title. This is when they exercised the Pistons, Demons. They beat the Showtime Lakers, even though it's kind of the end of the Lakers run. They also beat the Knicks and the Sixers. So you had Ewing kind of early for the Knicks, but still a pretty good Knicks team. And then the Sixers with Barkley, a really good Sixers team. That Bulls team went 15-2 in the playoffs. They had a 12.3 regular season point differential. Obviously, I can go into the merits of the actual players on the Bulls, but that I have them as my number 5 team.
Fair enough. They did not make my list. Close. I looked at them. They were I looked at about 8 teams, and they were one of them. My number 5 team is one of the teams I remember, actually, is the 2000 Lakers with Kobe and Shaq. With steamrolled through. Then Iverson won that one game, and then they just curb stomped everyone. I'm a Shaq guy. I'm not a Kobe guy. So I remember that as Shaq's team, but that's one of the better teams I've seen with my own eyes.
I don't have them on my list. They were one definitely in that kind of 6 to 10 range in my mind. Like you said, a dominant run through the playoffs for that team. So that was that the first Kobe Shaq title? Or was that the second year?
Believe
I can't remember.
It's all blur. That's the other thing with some of these. I kind of took a macro view. Like I have teams on here where I don't have a specific year per se. It's just their little run. Stretch for the Lakers where they were just, that was probably their peak. But yeah, there's a couple teams like that where it's hard to pinpoint one exact year.
And that was the hardest thing for me with the Celtics, with several Lakers kind of iterations.
Yep.
Kind of pinpointing one team, and you can kind of do an era almost. So that kind of transitions into my number 4, which is the 86-87 Lakers, kind of that Showtime era of the Lakers, really at the prime with Magic and Kareem and Worthy and all those guys. That was the team that beat the Celtics in the finals. They had a 4 or 5 epic, finals matchups in the 80s, but this one in particular is that Magic Skyhook.
Yep.
That team was 15-3 in the playoffs. They had a 9.3 point differential. Most people will put kind of these Showtime Lakers some point in their top 5, 10, whatever it is. Did you have them in your rankings?
So I have them 3rd.
Okay.
That's my same exact team. That's the peak of that run, kind of and then you said the Bulls kind of took it to them. So who do you have? Now we're down to our final 2 of each, I believe.
Yes. Who was your 3? Your 3 was
that they were my 3. So
they were your 3.
Celtics team. We switched 5 and 3.
Gotcha.
I had Celtics 5th, Lakers 4th, Showtime Lakers 3rd.
And I had the Bulls 5. You had the other Lakers at 4. So that's the only difference right now.
Yep. Who do you have at 2? This is where we're gonna have a difference for sure.
This is where it's gonna get exciting. Josh is just like rubbing his hands together. He's getting so excited to chime in. Who's it gonna be? I have my number 2 as the 16-17 Warriors, the first Durant season.
Yep.
16-1 in the playoffs. Obviously, we know what the Warriors were before that. They had won 73 games the season before. They bring in Durant. Some might argue destroyed the league in the process. Really cruised. They were 16-1 in the playoffs that year. They beat the Cavs pretty easily in the finals, 11.6 point differential. So the question is, do you have them as number 2 or a different team at 2?
I have a different team at 2.
I knew it.
Yeah, sorry. I have your Bulls at 2. It's like I said, first of all, I'm a bitter Jazz my screen name on DraftKings is Jazz Raz. I love the Jazz. I had a dog named Jazz growing up. They can never get over them. The 72-10 Bulls team, just that little run from 95 to 97, just stupid good. I'm assuming though that would be your crown jewel.
That's funny. I was actually going to ask you. I had been meaning to ask you what the origin story of Jazz Raz, whether that was music, whether that was Utah Jazz.
You'd be surprised. I get a lot of people that DM me being like, especially if, knock on wood, golf goes well, hey man, I really appreciate it. I'm always in New Orleans. If you ever play, and I'm I don't know anything about music, but I appreciate that.
Miles Davis, man, he's great.
It's most people in my personal life call me Raz, or Raz for my last name. And I love the Jazz growing up. We had a dog named Jazz, so that's where that comes from. A lot, Byron Russell flashbacks. Not good.
I've really uncovered the source of the Bulls' hate. Then now I get it.
Yeah, that's why I'm Team LeBron.
Now it makes sense.
It all comes together. Yeah, and I have obviously the Durant Warriors as the best team that I've ever seen. And this is where we could do a whole show on this era. For the time, I think it's the last thing I'll say. I always relate it to the mile. If you look at the mile world record 100 years ago, people get better. There's better fit now. You can run a sub 4 mile. That's impressive, but there's a lot of people that can do that. That was a golden mark, back in the day. So it's just the evolution of things. That's just naturally kind of where we go. And I think the Warriors right now are maxing out potential based on the rules.
Yeah. So obviously, like we said, my number 1 is the 72-win Bulls team. There's a lot of debate a few years ago how that team would match up against the 14-15 Warriors before they got the 73 win team. Did you consider the 73 win team Warriors, or no, because they lost in the finals?
Yeah, I mean, I certainly consider them. It is somewhat, that's again another show for another time. Like the Patriots, they lose to the Giants. It's still one of the best teams I've ever seen. Maybe there's some variance there. But you got to win, so that excluded them from being in the top 5.
Agreed. I was always not. This won't surprise you. I was of the position that the Bulls team would match up pretty well against that 14-15 Warriors. But with Durant, I mean, I don't know how. Like, it just seems almost impossible.
Again, with different era, and if now we've through analytics and stuff, people realize that taking a shot that's worth 1.5 times more is super plus EV.
Yeah,
like
who would have thought?
Who would have thunk it, right? So I'm sure if the Bulls had time to adapt and max out their potential based on the rules, they would be a serious problem for anybody.
Yeah. I mean, don't forget Steve Kerr was on that team.
There it is.
Tony Kukoc, 3-point assassin.
Great team, obviously. I mean, there are some parallels. I think Draymond, his ability to play a role like Rodman, it's where you don't need everyone to just be a ball dominant scorer. Like, it's so nice to have someone who fills in the holes to make a true team.
Yeah, I could talk hours on this, but like, imagine if the Bulls played a small lineup with Rodman at the 5, Kukoc play the 4. I mean, they had the pieces there.
That's what I'm saying, and that's just a product of the time, and that's just not how it was done.
Yeah. Woo. Yeah. So pretty fun. I like doing this kind of stuff. I think it's good for engagement. And if anybody has any comments, who their favorite team is, did we miss one that was really bad? Josh didn't chime in. He must love our lists. Clearly,
it was that good, or it was that bad. He just had to turn it off.
Yeah. He's MIA.
No, we absolutely want to do that. If people have suggestions for what type of list you want to see, let us know, because we're going to be doing one at the end of every show. Have some fun with it. It doesn't even have to be sports. I casinos, top favorite foods, whatever. Yeah. We will absolutely get to it and have some fun, because it's I always like stuff. I think a lot of people like it.
Yeah. And we started talking last week, just kind of our favorite TV shows. And I think that kind of gave us that idea that, this could be fun. It doesn't have to be necessarily sports. We can talk about, our top TV shows. Like you said, I mean, there's an endless amount of things we can talk about.
Look at that. Not bad.
So, all right. So everybody definitely comment. Let us know who your favorite team of all time is, or who the best team is. I guess you can kind of interpret that either way. And we will we'll take a look, see if there's anybody we want to mention for next week. And any ideas also, like you said, Ben, definitely let us know.
Mm-hmm.
And anything else for the weekend? Wrap us up here, Ben?
No, I think, going to hit up the golf. Obviously, if people have questions, we're always in Slack. If you haven't signed up, certainly use promo codes and whatnot, and stop on in, get all these resources, because as we say each and every week, it's just a habit. There's more than you think going on in the sports world. And we'll have some fun with it. So good luck, everyone. Hit the like button on your way out, as we always appreciate it. And we'll be back next week for Derby Talk. Look where I'm at. Belmont Stakes, third leg of the Triple Crown, in addition to recapping NBA Finals, NHL Finals. Take care.
Have a good one.
Take care.